Hi there, good day and thanks for joining me in this fresh edition of the program, The Insight on Equinox Television. Tonight we will be talking about salaries of mayors since Prime Minister Philemon Yang last week signed a decree stipulating how the salaries of mayors will be paid, as well as the money that will be used by the respective council for investment. As well as in this edition, we'll be looking at the growing situation, the growing tension, or call it the Cold War, in the two English-speaking regions of the country, as well as the visit of Prime Minister Philemon Yang. That is why my guest tonight is somebody who was on the ground, an actor. My guest tonight is the Deputy Mayor of the Ndu Council for the SDF party. With him, we shall be looking at these issues and more. Stay with us. I'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back. My guest tonight is Martin Fonyembe. He is Deputy Mayor for the Ndu Council, and with him we shall definitely be looking at salaries of mayor as well as the situation in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. Good day and thanks for joining me.
It's my pleasure, Hansen.
The pleasure is shared.
Thank you very much.
Now you are a Deputy Mayor for the Ndu Council under the banner of the Social Democratic Front Party.
You're right.
Now Prime Minister Philemon Yang a fortnight ago signed a decree stipulating the amount that will be paid to salaries of mayors as well as the investment of the respective councils. 10 billion francs CFA shared 5 billion. Now, are you satisfied with the Prime Ministerial decree?
Thank you very much. It's a very pertinent issue. I think it is as perplexing to us, the mayors, as it is to the general public of Cameroon, that we are still talking about promises and prospects when it comes to this issue of the payment of salaries. I say so because it is as simple as ABC for any person who has been following up the trend of things related to this salary saga. Because in 2010, November 2010, the National Assembly of Cameroon passed a law. A bill was passed into law that salaries henceforth, mayors and their deputies will be paid a remuneration and salaries. And this was promulgated into law immediately by the head of state. What we were waiting for was the text of application. This text of application could only come through a presidential decree. And so, when we were elected into office in 2013, September 2013, the take was that the first thing that was to happen with a people-oriented regime was signing that text of application, so that as we enter into office, we start having that salary, so that a lot of the mayors who usually fall into the temptation of pilfering, that's putting their hands where they are not supposed to be put, will desist from it. Curiously, we were in office for 2 years, and in 2013, again, September 16th, the head of state came round and signed that text of application, which is called a presidential decree. Therefore, it was not from that day that the head of state was initiating the idea of the payment of salaries. But curiously enough, the leadership of the councils, called the Union of Cities and Councils of Cameroon, UCCC,
of which you are a member,
and I'm the Secretary General for Donga Manto, they rallied all of us, and I did not go. I tell you this, I have a feeling about things, and I didn't go. They went to Yaoundé, and they were on the streets to say hurrah, hurrah to the head of state. It's a good thing to thank a father when he gives you what you deserve. It's a good thing. But then a father who has always promised and never given what he has promised, that is never delivered, the skeptical child who is very smart takes his time to come and say thank you. He takes his time.
That's what you did.
That's what I did. And I have been proven right with so many others. Because those who went down to Yaoundé came back from there thinking that in October of 2015, we were going to already start going to the banks. Rather, by 2016, February, That is when another communique came that we should regularize our situations with the banks, open up bank accounts and the rest. It took a lot of money doing this. You know, you have to have a basic amount of money in your account. You have to do a lot of compiling of documents and so on. So some of us who have gotten nothing had to do a lot of gymnastics to have money. And when I talk of gymnastics here, I mean rushing back to the other side things. For instance, I do publications. I'm a trained journalist, and I had to go into those sources to get that done. But then, one other year passed, and by November, when the Prime Minister was questioned at the National Assembly, Mr. Prime Minister said the budget of 2016 has taken care of the salaries for the whole of 2014-2015, and therefore that will be sent immediately, and that the Ministry of Finance and Territorial Administration should hurry up with modalities. We followed up again and waited. 2016 came and passed, and the next thing we heard when he was now questioned at the last session was that the mayors will be paid their arrears in the first quarter of 2017, in telling that January, February, March, this March, we will be receiving the arrears of the months that we had not been paid. Rather, we were shocked again to get a decree from him.
A prime ministerial decree.
Prime ministerial decree stating that 10 billion francs has been disbursed for the running of, in fact, they call it for investment and for the running of the councils and payment of salaries for mayors. That to me sounds bizarre, because to me, if we were to do the arithmetic, you would discover that it is just hot air being blown.
So 5 billion francs CFA has been set aside for investment and 5 billion for the payment of salaries. Now, the payment of salaries as well as the running of the council.
As well as the running of the council.
About 3 billion francs CFA now is set aside globally for the payment of salaries.
Right.
Do you think this is enough for all the over 300 councils that exist, and the mayors as well as their deputies?
In fact, Hansen, the best way to even do the arithmetic is taking the average number of mayors who are entitled to that, because you know there are some mayors who are on a better scale, financial salary scale, than what this presidential decree prescribes. You have mayors who are regional delegates on huge salaries, some who are chiefs of taxation,
and their mayors. But is that supposed to be the case?
That is not supposed to be the case. And all of them
others who are school principals.
Of course, and all of them are of the ruling party, prescribing the law. And in fact, it is a thing that if Cameroonians were to go into it, because I am sure that by the ethics of journalism, we don't want to call people's names, I would have given you. But the truth about it is that we have a lot of mayors who are state functionaries on very high salaries. And so, some of these people are the ones who are heading the Union of Cities and Councils of Cameroon, UCCC. And they are doing very little to pressurize FACOM and the state to do what it is supposed to do in order to let the mayors enjoy what they are due. And so you imagine that we are around 1,280 mayors, deputy mayors, and government delegates in Cameroon. Given that we have an average of 1,000 who actually put in their documents, but the official information from the state is that there were around 800 and something that have deposited their documents as of now. Which means if you were to take this and you take the 3 billion and you make an average of 300,000, because government delegates are on 400,000, mayors are on 300, and deputy mayors on 150. So you take the average of 300,000. And if you take 300,000 for 1 month and you multiply that by 100, you are talking about close to that. You are talking about 300. You are talking about 300 million. You are talking about 300 million, and that you cannot take care of just one region. And so when you now look at it, we will not be able to have salaries for 3-4 months for these 850 mayors in 2017. If the 5 billion is even allocated all for salaries, it will not be possible.
So it will not be possible for 1 year or for 1 month?
For 1 year, it will not. I mean, I'm talking about if the 5 billion were all for it. If the 10 billion were for the 1,300 mayors in the whole country, you could be talking now about it will be allocation for 1 year. But to talk of paying of salaries, running an investment, it sounds to me very bizarre, very, very bizarre and queer. And there is a question mark that someone somewhere has to answer. And I think those at FECOM, those at the Ministry of Finance, those at the Ministry of Minat have a responsibility to inform us how this is going to operate, because we have a right to know.
Now, what was supposed to be done? What do you think was supposed to be done rather than giving out these 10 billion francs?
Beautiful question, Hansen. What is supposed to be done is what is causing a lot of havoc in Cameroon. Decentralize the funds for the running of councils. There is a thing which is called the decentralization fund. There is an organ called the decentralization fund. That organ is supposed to work out the budget for all the councils in Cameroon, then disburse them to the various regional FECOM offices, and these now will put them in the various accounts of the councils and do regular follow-up to see to it that this month this amount is needed for this council, and the treasurer of that council comes and collects it, within which you have the salaries of the mayors and their deputies. Not that the government, because when the government will run bankrupt, take note that FECOM is the bank of the councils. Somebody had this wrong notion that FECOM is the funder of the councils. No, FECOM simply keeps our money for us, and we come and borrow. There are some councils, small councils like Furawa, small councils like Ako, depend on big councils like Kumbu, Ndu. So when we put into those banks, into that bank which is FECOM, and the government is supposed to chip in something so that they will now help to make sure that the smaller councils move along with the bigger ones. But what is happening now is that FECOM will give a loan for a car which costs 40 million francs, and FECOM will give it at around 50 million to the councils. It turns out to be a business venture for FECOM, and that is where government came again and borrowed a huge amount of money from FECOM, and that is why up to now we are talking now in March. The first quarter of the fourth quarter of the disbursement, which is called Centime Additionnel, that is supposed to have been given to councils, is not yet available. And very soon you will see workers demonstrating that they have not been paid. From where? The money is with FECOM, and they have not disbursed them to the councils. And this is what some of us have just gone in to discover, the bitter truth of what is going on.
Yeah, talking about workers who are, have been on strike, there are some councils that are experiencing unrest these days. We talk about the Douala 3 Council, which is being run by the SDF party. We've seen workers these days going on rampage, even bringing coffins on the council's premises. Do you think that it is related to what you just talked about? Is it poor management of the council, or it is as a result of the non-respect of the law on decentralization?
I'll be very brief there because I don't master the situation very well, but I happen to have been in Douala on the team that was reorganizing the littoral. I was the rapporteur, and Honorable Somo, the senator, was the president. And so I got the impression I have is that the guys are misinformed. Some of the workers are misinformed. They don't yet know they don't know certain situations, or they have been misinformed and they were using the information wrongly and they were exposed. That's the truth about it. In fact, the supervisory authority for Vuri, the senior divisional officer for Vuri, Nasere Paul Bea, himself explained that someone some way manipulated those guys. Remember that 2018 is at the corner, and Douala 3 is one of the pearls of Littoral as far as financial aspects are concerned with councils. When you talk of Douala 3, you talk about Douala 5, these two, they ring a bell in the Littoral. And so someone somewhere is trying to stir up trouble in that council to give the mayor a bad name. But I say thanks to the supervisory authority of the Vuri. I know that Nasser Paul Biya is a very objective administrator. I heard him explain and said somebody somewhere has misinformed these guys, and they wanted to make a hay of something that, to stir a storm in a teacup.
But even though they had 2 months of salary arrears,
I've told you that I will want one mayor somewhere around to tell us that he has paid his workers right up to the end of February. I want to hear that. Then I will say, then it's a very serious issue, because as I tell you, those that benefit, for instance, in the new council, I talk about my case. In the new council, we pay our workers through the credit union. We've signed a contract with a credit union in place, and that credit union pays them upfront, up to date. And when what comes from FACOM arrives our accounts, the first thing is that we go to the bank and pay this. But as I've said, logically, therefore, it means that nothing has come from FACOM for the last 5 months. If that be the case, we will be concluding, therefore, that these people have received salaries for close to 2 months without us having reimbursed, which means we are owing that bank or that credit union 2 or 3 months. Consequently, by the contract we had, when we are owing them above 10 million francs, they will stop paying until we make up. Therefore, my council will be owing 2 months' salaries to the workers. And they understand that that is the situation, because there is no way you can go again and do any other thing, because we had an agreement from the beginning that this is how we're going to be doing it. When this come, the workers themselves know. When anything comes from FACOM, they are the first to know. Just like the service providers, they are the first to know, because they want their situations to be regularized as fast as possible.
So there is an invisible hand as far as Douala 3 is concerned?
Not very invisible, it's a non-hand. And that hand, the authorities of the Douala 3 Council, they know, and they are managing the situation adequately. I have hopes in in fact, not only the authorities of the council, but of the supervisory authority.
Now, I want us to talk about this decentralization issue, because it is very important.
It is.
This decentralization, how is it supposed to be on the ground as far as councils are concerned?
Right.
You know that competencies were transferred to mayors, to councils. Are you enjoying that, the independence? Are you enjoying that power? Especially coming at the time, do you control markets? Do you control health centers? All that, then do council? Even though you don't have a government delegate, do you control that? Because I know that councils which have under
which are not subdivisional councils,
yes, and under government delegate, like the Douala City Council, the Bamenda, they suffer a lot as far as the control of markets are concerned.
That's right. And these are big councils in big towns, all right? Irrespective of the powers that have been cut and given to the government delegates, they still enjoy more facilities and amenities than the other councils in the rural areas. They used to be called rural councils, and these other ones used to be called urban councils. But as I talk to you now, like the question you have asked, decentralization is on paper. And let me be very objective in this situation. Markets, as you're talking about, how many markets give what in those rural areas? Ndu could be one of the privileged few, because we naturally are the best in the production of small ruminants. I'm talking about goats, I'm talking about pigs, I'm talking about sheep and fowls.
Yes.
Right. But we also have the best products of beans in the entire sub-region, African sub-region. I'm talking of beans. We have potatoes, we have all of those. But then how many other councils have these facilities? Very few. So when we depend only on the market, the monies we collect, as per the law, a certain percentage goes to FACOM, which is our bank, in order to sustain other councils. But when we're talking about decentralization as of now, within the context of the devolution of power, Remember, the SDF had come up with the devolution of power on how decentralization can be functional. We're not just talking about financial autonomy. We're talking about decision taking. You are there in Lu, and a school down there in a place called Lo, or in a place called Sop, needs teachers, needs a building. And somebody sits in Yaoundé because he is a politician and decides that the school should go to Ndu Central, which is suffocated with buildings. And this situation gives the impression that the guy does not master the terrain. The man who masters the terrain only gets instructions from Yaoundé that you go put this school at this place. It is for a political purpose. It is not to serve the people. You go put this hospital at this point. It is very close to another hospital, but you have areas with no hospitals. And this is why we keep saying that the story would have changed if we had a federal setup, because the police that will be managing the situation in the municipality will be recruited by the council, the teachers recruited by the council, and the funds devolved to the regions and finally to the councils will be used as per the budget that is voted both at the region and at the council to take care of them. And you are talking about people who are accountable to the council, and therefore they will be working to please the people, without which they will be fired. That is what obtains in federal setups. Someone somewhere in Yaoundé is mistaking the situation, frightened that you want to sap out the marrow and allow them with the bones. That is what is frightening them, because it's a long time tradition, and it will take a lot of time or either force for it to be broken. So this decentralization thing is only on paper. This issue of payment of salaries and the rest would have been a situation that is very simple to handle. So you see with me, therefore, that there is some cacophony at that level of decentralization.
Well, at this juncture, what can be done to make sure that the decentralization process is strictly respected? What can be done?
Simple.
A change of regime?
A change of system. A change of the structure of the state. The way the head of state goes on television on the 31st of December and quickly says there will be no change of the structure of government. I tell you, he is not conscious of what the people want. I can tell you this, and I say it, that he will want, I quote him, President Paul Biya, over Radio Monte Carlo in France. He said, I want to be remembered, because they asked him, what would you like to be remembered for? I would like to be remembered as the one who brought democracy to Cameroon. Mr. President, if you do not allow federalism to bring back Cameroon to be one and indivisible, then you will not be remembered as you will be remembered as the one who divided Cameroon. That is the way I will put it. Because I have a copy of, I can brandish it, the copy of the Federal Constitution of Cameroon, signed by President Amadou Ahidjo, who was the predecessor of President Biya. And I have a copy of the Constitution of West Cameroon, which made it very clear that it will be attached to the one and indivisible Cameroon on the basis of this federal system. And so anybody who is refusing federalism, that's effective decentralization, that's the meaning, that person should be seen as the one who wants to divide Cameroon. And I stand to challenge those who are trying to divide Cameroon. Anyone who refuses federalism is trying to divide Cameroon. And that is why my party, the SDF, God-given party, God-destined party, was formed on the basis of federalism. And that is why most socialists in the world lean on federalism, because they know that the checks and balances can only come in a situation, a setup of federalism. Decentralization, call it decentralization, effective decentralization, whatever, as obtains now in Cameroon, is an autocratic system that takes its roots from the Napoleonic and the Gaullist system. It is very clear, political scientists will tell you this. We love Cameroon, and I tell you I love Cameroon. And I have a dream that if Cameroonians embrace federalism wholeheartedly and genuinely, this will be the pearl of Africa. But then the devil is manifesting itself, and his works are ending, because from 1917, when the German Cameroon was divided up into two, East Cameroon and West Cameroon, that is the year the Virgin Mary, I'm a Catholic, appeared at a place called Fatima 100 years ago and said the devil will have his agenda for 100 years, but that in 2017 that power will expire and the world will be free of devils. So people who love God and want to do things justly in line with Philippians chapter 4 verse 8 upward, do what is good, what is just, what is noble, what is admirable, what will be good for the entire people. We who did literature, we call it utilitarianism. That's the greatest good for the greatest majority. But the opposite of federalism is the greatest wrong to the greatest majority and the greatest good to the few, which is what we are fighting against.
Okay, my guest tonight is Martin Fonyembe. He is Deputy Mayor of the Ndu Council. Ladies and gentlemen, time for us to take a break now. Let's go to the machines and have this report of the Prime Minister's tour in the northwest region of the country, 5-day visit. And after his visit, we sought to know from key actors, especially educationists, school proprietors, as well as Honorable Member of MP for Bafut-Tuba, how the situation is in the northwest region of the country, precisely in Bamenda. Get this report. I'll be right back. The strike action in the northwest region has greatly paralyzed activities, and when activities are on a standstill, the economy suffers. Teachers in government schools might be receiving their salaries, but those in private sectors have a different story. A private school proprietor today laments on the devastating repercussion. He has to pay his staff, but where is the money?
Networks are breaking down, institutions are breaking down. It takes a long time to build a character of children and a people. We see that the character of the children is being broken down. The morality in the community is being broken down. Children who are used to being coached, especially in the teenage years, before they get to majority, when they can take their own decisions now, are taking their own decisions and doing just what they want. The social order is breaking down. That's a huge price that we are paying. And my spirit weeps. My spirit weeps. In terms of the losses, you can see we are losing on many fronts. And it's not just the population that is losing. The government is losing and the country is losing because the government is the people.
The appeal today is that peace should reign in the northwest region, because with peace, things are expected to come back to normalcy.
Up until now, a lot of Anglophones, for instance, feel that I am has been taken away from them. Youths feel that I am has been, they cannot access the I am. So at each stage of the human existence, when these loves are not, these elements are not met, there's no peace.
Honorable Fosi Wilfred Namukong, the people's representative of Mezam North, Bafut-Tuba constituency, says for things to come back to normalcy, certain conditions must be fulfilled.
As I told the Prime Minister, I still repeat it, release our people. When once you release our people, you bring back the internet, you demilitarize the towns, you stop the rampant arrest, illegal arrest and brutality, we will feel Cameroonians. People feel a conducive atmosphere and they'll be happy to work with the state. But when once people are having pain and you are talking about other things without the people being released, without the people having their internet, being able to communicate, it will be very difficult. It will be very difficult for people to reason. Nobody can be reasoning in pains because the teachers are in detention. Students are in detentions. Those who committed crimes are in detentions. Those who did not commit crimes are in detention. It seems everybody will be detained.
School, he says, will resume if these issues are addressed. He called on the government to stop rampant arrests, torture, arbitrary detention.
Because you cannot have 10 regions 8 are using internet and 2 are not using internet. It is.
Yeah, welcome back. My guest tonight, Martin Fonyembe. Let's now talk about the tour of the Prime Minister in the northwest region of the country. The deadlock has continued to persist. The Prime Minister came appealing for parents to send their children to school.
Right.
We saw him last Monday in Mezam at the Congress Hall. We saw how Honorable Afosi told, exposed, the minds of the people to the Prime Minister, that the people want the leaders arrested to be released, they want internet to be reconnected,
yes,
and demilitarization of the town of Bamenda.
Right.
Now, when you assess the Prime Minister's tour in 5 days, what can you say concretely?
Concretely, what I would say is that the Prime Minister has suddenly, he wanted to take away the wind from the sails of the governor's ship. What I mean here is that the governor had been doing a tremendous job. The governor of the Northwest region. I can say it today, tomorrow, and the day after. That governor, Lele Lafrique, is a people-oriented administrator. He was on the field. He came to Ndu, and he had to sound hard. And we saw with him. Some overzealous politicians tried to concoct things around for some people to be arrested. But later on, those people were released. And these were all things that if it were in the hands of some other brutes, the situation would have been different. The language of the Prime Minister during this trip has not been very, very comforting. People expected their brother to come and say, I have come to listen and I have come to join you, know the way out. But he came with an entourage of people who were bullying people around. And I think it is because of the interventions of the likes of Fusi Namokong. It's because of the interventions of people like Honorable Njong Evaristus and even the Honorable Walang, the CPDM MP for Menchum, and the Womb Boy. I think it is because of that he decided that he will edit and censor those speaking in the rest of the divisions. I'm talking especially Donga Mantung and Bui.
You personally represented your council.
I represented my MPs who are in Yaoundé, and my NGO, which is the only civil society organization on issues of human rights in Donga Mantung and Bui. I'm talking about the Global Information Network. And I'm the only inducted marshal in Donga Mantung. Marshal means Exams Ethics Marshals International. It's a group that makes sure that examination ethics are followed. Students cannot be forced to write exams when they have not studied. And they are just talking about UNESCO, but the AMI is also working on something. What I'm driving at is that I sat in that capacity and I observed that the Prime Minister came with an agenda, fixed agenda. And I will call it was an exercise in futility, because he did just exactly what I had wanted to advise him not to do. If he went around, he talked about some 9 myths, which to him he called 9 lies. And to me that was okay. And then he talked about the biblical adage, there is time for everything. Time to fight and time to reconcile. Time to cry and time to laugh. Time for enmity and time for reconciliation. I was imagining that the Prime Minister had not left Yaoundé to come and only tell us, go back to school, because we trust our Prime Minister. And we think that if he were just to make a statement on TV and say, please, I am your brother, we speak the same language, let the children go back to school and we'll solve all the other things, people would have listened to him. But when he was coming, we were expecting that he was coming with some other package. Number one, that what he expressed, that this is a time for the truth and reconciliation. And that is when we would have loved that he should listen to us. The truth is that some people, and the people in majority, have hijacked the teacher strike because they had accumulated grievances. Brother, I remember that on Equinox, I have said it on several occasions, that the number one problem of the Ndu man is the tea. The number two problem is the tea. Number three is the tea. Because somebody during the period of privatization came and used his influence and took the land, which is over 1,200 hectares of land, with eucalyptus, tea, everything, houses, and the contract had long expired in 2003. It has not been renewed. Ndu Council is not benefiting anything. Even the 20% taxation that is supposed to be paid to the Ndu Council, we are not getting anything. And that the government keeps quiet. People are arrested, even children of 12 years old. As I speak to you now, last week, the herds, those barns where women put their maize before they are finally transported, over 20 of them were burnt by the guards of the CTE in Ndu, because a wildfire came and traced and burnt some stems of tea. They went on the rampage, arrested an old mother of 89 years who is virtually burnt, and burnt down all the barns that are found around the area. They have encroached into individual lands and even church land. We have talked and written to the Prime Minister and spoken and so on and so forth. So when we think of such things, one of them was, how do you imagine when you cross the Mungo and you're going down to Kumba, you pass 3 checks where they say Desande, and you show your ID card. From Matazem to Nkambe, you pass 4 Desande and you show your ID card. But from Munda to Douala, passengers don't drop. When people have those things accumulated in them, when they see this small opportunity where teachers are talking about their salaries and so on, parents jump in now and say, if this issue of children not going to school can shake the government like this, then we will take it over so that we will express our grievances. So I expected the Prime Minister to say, please, my fathers, my mothers, what is the problem? Would have told him that this. He would have said, that is where the thing is. Okay, then I'll go back and see. But the immediate thing the people wanted, please, like one ex-principal told the Prime Minister, that is Mr. Sayani Johnson. I am proud of what he did in Kame. If you were coming here with Agbobala, with Fontem, with Abangma and the others, even Wilfred Tasang them, if you were coming here to sit with them and tell us go back to school, even today, Friday, and tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, we will even ask our children to go to school even on Sundays. But they are not here. They are in detention for having done nothing.
What the PM said?
The PM said, you don't expect me to take the laws into my hands. They are facing trial and the rest. And the people said, you, the state, and you are the executive, the judiciary is there. The head of state has some prerogatives which cut across. He could have done that. He has done it in the past. He has done it on several occasions. I can cite examples. I was one of the victims in 1992. Those who were arrested in Bamenda here during the state of emergency. We didn't go to court. We were detained. But when the head of state took his prerogative and released everybody, Bamenda came back to normal. The state of emergency was off and Bamenda remained calm. So do this. Reinstate the internet, because, Hanson, I tell you the truth about it is that before the 17th of February, those they call extremists had no access to the people, because people knew the leaders. And they knew that this is his account. This is his account. But today I am seeing some terrible messages coming to me, and I see horrible messages that come into my phone, and they forge the names of some people, and I see it as an analyst. I see somebody, instead of writing Barreta, he goes and write Barat, or what a Tapang, he goes and write Tasang. I just know that these are people who have taken advantage of the closure of the internet in this area to be sending SMS messages and forging people's names and giving. That cannot be done if the internet is there. So what is happening is that there is a boomerang effect of that, and the PM was told this on the field. Lastly, they told him there is an undeclared state of emergency in the northwest and southwest. Undeclared. Because the administrator can just say, arrest this guy and lock him up. Arrest this guy and take him off. So that fear and the distrust has caused what we are going through now. This problem can be solved. The head of state can wake up one good morning and just say, nonsense, this nonsense will stop. All those who have been deceiving, giving him false information and the rest and so on and so forth, all of them will be dealt with. The internet reinstated. I give you people of the North and Southwest a challenge. If I see those horrible things again, which I was being told were going on, because he says he is not of the Android generation. If you guys, I gave you praise that you are of the Android generation. If you misuse it, I will clock it off forever. The head of state says this, that will not continue, because it's a security issue, and I accept with him. Secondly, don't blackmail people on the internet and the rest. But you see, the SMS is doing worse, because the mother who is in the farm, he receives the SMS message. He says, hey, Kerbake, c'est quoi encore? Now wait again. He go look, then they will discover that it's a message saying that this is. They will not verify who has sent the message and just say, hey, they have said they will burn schools tomorrow. And panic will get into the old woman's head, and she will say, my children, if they are going to burn the school, then we better go to the farm. But if the internet were there, it will be regularized. The leaders will be known. Those who have been talking secession and so on. I remember that when this thing started, some people whom we know already, SCNC has stood for the independence of Southern Cameroon. But when the lawyers and the teachers started, they never mentioned it. They were attacked by SCNC. Say, who gave you the mandate to begin to talk federalism instead of talking independence? And some of us went on the list and said, this is not SCNC. This is a trade union that is fighting, and if they have brought in federalism, it's because the common law system can only exist in a federal setup.
Yes. Now, what did you tell the PM? You were representing some MPs.
Good question. They struck off my name and that of Nsakwa. Deliberately, 8 of us were on the list. That is very small for a visit of the Prime Minister. But Minister Fu Kalisto stood the whole time, and he took time talking, saying he knows the principals who have done this, he knows those who have been doing this, and that is the arrogance and the type of language the people do not want to hear. They don't want to listen to that type of language. And when they blocked me, I had already written everything up. I submitted my paper and I said, I would have loved to talk. If I had talked here, the Prime Minister would have seen reason in even taking me along to the other places that he had earlier been. But he missed the opportunity. And so what I'm saying is that he didn't come to solve the problem. He came to bully at the people, and at the end of the day, I say it was an experience in futility. And this is very, very unfortunate. He refused to listen to us. He listened only to Nkumbu. Can you imagine that Honorable Banadzem, the parliamentary group leader for the SDF, who represents not only the people of Bui, but represents the entire followership of the SDF that sent people to parliament. He puts up his name throughout. You refuse, and you prefer to take that of the section president for CPDM in Kumbu, who is the principal of GBHS Kumbu, and the likes. And at the end he said, Honorable, don't worry, we'll look for some other occasions too, which means he is not ready to see the solution now. It's unfortunate, Hanson. It's unfortunate.
Now, where is Honorable Wiba Joseph talking about, because we know that by Monday, the March parliamentary session will be opening. You are of the SDF. You know his whereabouts?
He should be in parliament. If people are saying other things and so on, until I hear from the parliamentary group that he has sent him on mission, or whatever, then will I say anything. Any other thing that is floating on the messages and the rest and so on and so forth, I take them with a pinch of salt. And until parliament will open, then journalists will find out from the parliamentary group leader, because the parliamentary group leader could send him on mission for his group to do something anyway, because the SDF is not only asking for this federalism by sitting at NEC and coming out with resolutions. The SDF is doing a lot of consultations, a lot of findings and so on. And so Honorable could be sent on a mission. I say could be sent on a mission to go to sister parties in the world to solicit the support, because the SDF is a legalist. It's an organization. We make sure that we follow the channels that are legal and which are peaceful. And we could be touching our sister socialist parties and other friendly political groupings in the world to push this federal position to go through. Reasons being that if we do not do this, some other people will hijack the opportunity and something nasty will happen. Nasty to some people, but very healthy for others. I wouldn't say that this is what is happening with the case of Joe Wilbur, but I'm telling you that that could be a very serious possibility.
Okay,
yes.
Before we go, the deadlock that has continued to persist in the Northwest region and Southwest region, what can be done? What are your own solutions to this deadlock?
Thank you very much. One, let us revisit the position of the opposition in 1991, a sovereign national conference. I hear that there will be an educational forum. Do you know that there was one? There was a national forum for education. There was a national forum for communication. There was a national forum for health. National forum. All those things, they are just smoke screens. Convene a national conference, sovereign national conference. The head of state will sit there as a partner, as a party. The Nijon Frundi, whoever, and the others, the clergy, and so on. And personalities for conflict management and resolutions will be invited from all over the world. Has it ever occurred to anybody that in South Africa, with all the atrocious things that the apartheid regimes of Pieter Botha and William de Klerk did immediately after, none of them has ever been persecuted? Because the people sat in what was called the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. And that's the second thing. Let's have a Truth and Reconciliation Committee constituted within that conference, and you will see things go. I will not say the solution is in federalism, because that is an option which has to be discussed at the Sovereign National Conference. Why do I say sovereign? Sovereign in that it is not to be sanctioned at the end by President Biya. It is to be sanctioned at the end by the people through a referendum. Through a referendum duly organized by a body, not by a LECAM, by a body that is also sovereign and neutral. And these are simple things to do to rescue a country. Do you know that there are 12 stages that a state can take to fail? Cameroon is at the 10th. We lack just 2 steps now to get into it. We cannot cross a river and drown in a stream, brother. That is seemingly what is happening now. And remember, the very teeth that the dog takes to bite is the same one it takes to play. And so there is a lot we can do. There's a lot we can do. I told those in the interior of the Prime Minister that what the Prime Minister has come to do is putting off wild bushfire with dry palm fronds. In my place, we use wet palm fronds to put off fire, not dry ones. When you use dry palm fronds, you are inflaming the thing the more. You are fueling it. And that is exactly what he is doing. Can someone somewhere listen to us now? Can someone somewhere listen to the people? And stop this nonsense of arresting people up and down. Some of us are used to the arrest, and it means nothing to be arrested. But let the head of state, President Paul Biya, let him listen to us. He sent Garga Haman Haji to Bamenda. He sent people to Buya. They have gone there and come back and told him, what has he done? He met the national chairman of SDF in Yaoundé when the lions were coming back. He talked with him briefly. Frundi told him, do this, address this issue, and everything will be okay. He has up to now allowed it. It is like, let the worst happen. Accidents are occurring every day and now. Train accidents, these accidents, and the rest. These are signals. This is 2017. This is 100 years after the devil's work would have expired this year. Anybody who tries to play with the people will face the wrath of God. That is what I can say.
It was a pleasure having you in this day's edition of the program, The Insight on Equinox Television.
The pleasure is equally mine, and I wish Equinox the best. And I know the people of Ndu are very, very, very tuned to your programs, and they love Equinox immensely. I just wish you the best, and that God is going to protect you, because you are doing what is good, what is attractive, and what is noble.
All right, it was equally a pleasure having you in this day's edition of the program, where we are broadcasting from Bamenda, the chief town of the Northwest region of the country, during this period which the Prime Minister Philemon visited the region. Take our rendezvous there for next week, Sunday, for what will be another edition of the program, The Insight. Good night.
Good night. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure too.